It's probably true that in many ways you can learn more from a defeat than you can a victory. On that, looking back to the Aberystwyth Town result, what are your general thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we debrief the game as normal, as we normally do. We go through the clips, we look at the areas we can improve on, and we look at the areas that we did well and the strengths that we had in the game. We had plenty of strengths in that game. We created more than enough chances to win that game. So we went through those areas and being probably more clinical in the final third from all the players, not just the forwards, but the fullbacks, the midfielders getting into those areas too, defenders from set plays, and making sure that probably a real area was that if we're clinical in that game and we score in the first half like we should have done, or in the second half as well with the 3 1-on-1s that we had, then I think the game would have been different. When you don't score and you take advantage of that, you always leave yourself open. We made a mistake at the back and that ended up costing us. And listen, fair play to the opposition. I said it earlier, but I thought Aber were fantastic that night and stayed in the game and really put on a great performance. So yeah, we look back at strengths and weaknesses, as we said, and I think there's plenty to improve on, which we have been saying even when we've won games as well.
There will be an extended break between matchday 13 and the upcoming matchday 14. What's the staff, the players and yourself been up to?
Yeah, well look, it's been a good chance for us to evaluate the season as a whole, so the last 13 games, where we are and what we need to do to get better, and also the things that we've been improving on as well. There's been plenty of positives in that time. I think when you win 10, draw 2, lose 1, you're obviously on the right track. But we've always said that we've got more to go and think that we certainly can. So we've been assessing that. We had a good meeting with the players on Monday to evaluate that part of the season. Showed a few clips, refreshed on our goals again and said where we wanted to be come the end of the season. And that's been a good sort of mini period of start up until that period. Now we've got another period up until Christmas and probably January. And then we've got, once the split happens later on after that, then we've got another period. So breaking it down into small chunks we found's worked well with these players and with the staff and everyone. So that's what we did, and make sure that we evaluate that period and then move on to the next one.
And the next game is against Newtown this coming Friday. What have you said to the players specifically to get a reaction in terms of an expected bounce back from them?
Yeah, well, you know what? First of all, the players have trained really well this week. They've absolutely bounced back and had a good reaction themselves. They're hungry. They were disappointed after the loss. And it hasn't taken too much for them to get back into it, I must say. And that's a credit to them and their work rate, attitude, enthusiasm to get better and do well on the training pitch and off the training pitch. And the standards that they've set themselves has been a credit to them. So it hasn't been a tough task to get them up for it. They're hungry and want to put the performance, more the result right is the important bit, I should say. I think the performance was decent enough to get a win. But to put the result right come this weekend, we are aware of Newtown. It didn't seem like a tough game by results-wise in the first game we had against them, but it really was. It was tight. I think it was 1-1 at half-time. We managed to creep away in the second half with some good play, but they're a good side. I mean, the manager, Chris, doing a good job there. He's won Manager of the Month, I think, last month. They've had some good results. They had a bit of a crazy game, I think, last Tuesday, I think it was 3-3. So we've watched that one and watched their last sort of 3 or 4 performances, and they're a good side. They've got forward threats. They're very well organised defensively. A big threat on the counter-attack, so we'll be aware of their strengths and areas that they'll want to exploit us on, but then making sure that we stick to our home game as well. I mean, look, we're at home. Our record's been very, very good at home. We'll be on the front foot and we'll want to try and win the game.
And sticking with the theme of a bounce back, traditionally, whenever the New Saints has lost a game, it's always come back very strong in the following fixture. It goes without saying you're expecting that this time round.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's important when we have even drawn games this season. We have bounced back well. I think it's not just a case of what the result is when you bounce back, but the mentality and the work ethic and the focus and the concentration. We've definitely seen that this week myself. Chris Sargent and the staff certainly have. So we're hoping that we just put that good training week into the performance on Friday.
And Gav Grosvenor from the County Times, he asks a question. Well, first of all, he makes reference to it being a derby game, but he asks a question regarding this coming fixture, that do you see Newtown as still very much in the title race, although they are 9 points behind TNS?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that we don't, I know this seems a funny answer, but we really don't pay too much attention to the table. We're concentrating on ourselves. We want to try and keep getting the results, keep getting the performances that we have been, and not too concerned about where the other teams in the table. We're concerned about those teams when we play them. like we said, to give them the respect that they deserve, and then make sure we try and get the best result. But I think there's a lot of teams in and around those places that are winning a few games in a row, which propels them up the table. Others might lose a few, which goes down, and I think that's probably been changing since the start of the season if you had a look at that table. So I think there's a lot of teams that are in and around it. I think the split always makes things interesting. I had a good experience of that last season where you're playing very good teams every single week, and that can have a bearing as well. So sometimes where teams are before the split ends up and means that they're different places after the split because they're not playing the other teams that are lower down. So I think it's a really interesting probably question. I'd probably say that we do concentrate on ourselves, but I think it'll be interesting come the season where everyone is.
And fans certainly look at the table,
Yeah.
don't they? And the New Saints 6 points clear of second place, 9 points clear of third, and we're now into the single figures as far as the run-in to the end of phase one is concerned. If you were to be in this position, knowing that at the start of the season, would you have been happy?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the European run would change maybe the answer of that as well, because we had 6 very tough games. We obviously did extremely well as a team and a club in Europe and had some fantastic results, but to be knocked out in the manner we did at penalties and a physically taxing game, and then to start the season straight away on the Sunday, I think that was really tough and really hard. So to get those results in the first 13 games with only 1 loss and 2 draws, I think is a credit to what we've done here and what the players have done. So yeah, we would be happy with that. As we've said many times, we want to improve on last season, and last season we came second narrowly, and that's our goal and our target come the end of the season, that we want to try and put ourselves in a position to improve on last season, which is to try and win the league. So we make no hiding place about that, we make no bones about that, and that's what we want to be come the end of the season. So if we're in the position we're in at the moment, that's great, but we know it's only a good start, and we want to push on and continue that to put ourselves in a great position when that split comes.
And finally, as always, the availability situation.
Yeah, no, we've had a few players back in, which is good. We've picked up a couple of knocks from Tuesday, so there could be 1 or 2 that are struggling. I'm not going to give you too much information who they might be, but there might be 1 or 2 that might not be able to make it for the game on Friday, but not long-term injuries and hopefully back soon.